We call it the ick factor. We try to mitigate the ick factor as much as possible. I think people are becoming a little bit more used to it.
Erica Barnell knows she has to help people get past that part of her work. It's the part that involves stool samples collected at home and sent to her lab. Barnell's time in laboratories over the last few years gave her the focus and drive to try to prevent colorectal cancer, the second most common cause of cancer death in the United States.
It's such a preventable disease. If you catch it early, you have unbelievable prognosis, great survival in these precancerous stages. It's indolent, so it develops over the course of a number of years, starting as normal tissue and then advancing to a polyp and then becoming malignant. So it provides individuals with the opportunity to catch it early.
And those samples she mentioned, now coming into this lab, are becoming part of the solution.
Always talk about you pick up after your dog and you have kids. And after you kind of go through a couple of those life milestones, the ick factor feels a little bit less when you're trying to take care of your own health.
As an MD, PhD candidate at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, Barnell says she realized catching colorectal cancer early doesn't happen unless people are having colonoscopies as recommended.
We're really bad at diagnosing colorectal cancer in early stage because of the existing methodologies to detect colorectal cancer. Traditionally, we've been using colonoscopies, but patients are very adverse to that procedure because it's invasive, time-consuming, expensive. Our approach is to develop non-invasive molecular diagnostics that can accurately detect both colorectal cancer and precancerous lesions to help improve compliance with colorectal cancer screening and reduce morbidity and mortality associated with the disease.
Barnell is now committed. She is co-founder and chief science officer for Geneoscopy, a life sciences startup company that's developing non-invasive ways to monitor, diagnose, and treat gastrointestinal disease. The company's innovative RNA FIT stool test is priority.
It's an RNA FIT test. So the diagnostic is both a fecal immunochemical test, which detects if there's blood present in your stool sample. And in combination, we supplement that diagnostic with an RNA-based panel. The RNA panel specifically detects advanced adenomas, which are very large polyps that have a high malignant transformation rate. So the RNA FIT in combination both detects and prevents cancer through cancer detection and precancerous lesion detection.
Geneoscopy's laboratory in Maryland Heights is processing samples for its clinical trial.
Our test would be recommended for anyone between 45 and 75 who is average risk for colorectal cancer screening. You enroll online, so we have a site where patients can go and enroll or ultimately can get a diagnostic prescribed to them. The first step is we send a kit to the patient's home. If the result is positive, we recommend that the patient go receive a colonoscopy to potentially remove lesions that we detected non-invasively. If the result is negative, the patient is cleared and considered eligible for their next recommended screening interval, which will be in about 3 years.
She encourages participation in this clinical trial based on early-stage clinical trial results.
In our recent clinical trial, the sensitivity for cancer was 95%, and the sensitivity for advanced adenomas was 60%.
Barnell says Geneoscopy is trying to advance non-invasive testing over other existing tests.
What we wanted to do was improve advanced adenoma sensitivity. In our most recent clinical trial, we saw nearly a 50% improvement over Cologuard's accuracy profile. And that diagnostic, in my mind, would really prevent colorectal cancer development through advanced adenoma detection and removal.
The American Cancer Society recommends that people with average risk of colorectal cancer start regular screenings at the age of 45 rather than the age of 50. This is because studies show rates of colorectal cancer among people younger than 50 are on the rise.
You can imagine if a patient turns 50 and they've had a lesion in their colon that's been growing for the last 3 or 4 years, if they get a colonoscopy right at 50, that lesion's detected, the lesion's removed, and the patient is fine. If that lesion continues to grow and say you keep putting off your colonoscopy and now you're 51, now you're 52, now you're 53, the pandemic hits and you super don't want to go get the colonoscopy, so now you're 54, that lesion's been growing now for 6 or 7 years. And if it turns into something malignant, you can develop symptoms that are not asymptomatic. You start having problems with your bowel movements. You start developing, syndromic symptoms that are a response to the carcinoma. And so you go to the doctor because those symptoms are concerning. And at that point, you detect a cancer that has advanced, that would have been detected and removed at an earlier stage had you gone and received the colonoscopy at 50.
Barnell is clear. A colonoscopy is very important, and she says the hope for Geneoscopy is to improve widespread disease detection and prevention.
Colonoscopy serves as both the method for diagnosis as well as the method for treatment. You can remove those lesions during the colonoscopy procedure. However, the backlog for the number of colonoscopies that need to be done is huge. My goal, instead of replacing colonoscopies, is to identify the individuals that need a colonoscopy, identify individuals that have lesions that need to be removed, and put those individuals to the top of the list so that they can get the procedure early, get the lesions removed, and not have to go through an unnecessary colonoscopy when their mucosa is fine.